What just happened at the US Open has left the entire tennis world in shock. Daniil Medvedev, one of the sport's most polarizing and unpredictable stars, has once again stolen the spotlight, but for all the wrong reasons. The headlines are not about his brilliant shot-making, not about his ability to hang with the very best on the hard courts of New York, but about a storm of controversy that has now landed him with one of the heaviest fines of this year's tournament. Over $42,000 for his on-court meltdown. When you think of Medvedev, you think of a fighter, someone who has never shied away from confrontation, someone who feeds off the energy of the crowd whether they're cheering or booing him. But this time, the line between passion and control was crossed, and the punishment was swift. Fans inside Arthur Ashe Stadium could not believe what they were witnessing. A player of his caliber, someone who has already been crowned champion on the biggest stage in New York, found himself unraveling in front of thousands. And now, his actions have set off a firestorm that is echoing far beyond the courts of Flushing Meadows. The moment it happened, cameras captured every detail. Medvedev, clearly frustrated, let his emotions get the best of him. What began as a heated disagreement over a point quickly spiraled. Words were exchanged, gestures were made, and the entire stadium was buzzing. To some fans, it was Medvedev showing his raw fire, his unwillingness to simply take a loss quietly. But to others, it was an ugly moment that crossed the line of sportsmanship. And when the governing body reviewed everything, the verdict was clear, a fine of over $42,000. Now, think about that number. $42,000. For most people, that's life-changing money. For Medvedev, it's not going to break his bank, but it does send a very clear message. Tennis is a sport that prides itself on tradition, respect, and professionalism. And when a top player pushes too far, no matter how big their name, there are consequences. The fine wasn't just about money, it was a statement to Medvedev, to the fans, and to every player watching. There are limits, and if you break them, you pay the price. What makes this story so emotional is the fact that it didn't have to end this way. Medvedev was in a strong position heading into the tournament. He's been a fan favorite in New York before, famously winning the US Open in 2021 and silencing doubters who thought he couldn't rise to the occasion. But instead of making headlines for his tennis brilliance, he's now in the spotlight for an incident that will follow him for months. The fine is just the beginning. Critics are already questioning what this means for his legacy. Inside the locker room, reports suggest there was tension. Medvedev himself looked visibly shaken after the match, his usual smirk and defiance replaced by silence. Some close to him say he knows he went too far, that he understands this was not just another bad day at the office. But others argue that this is who Medvedev is, mercurial, unpredictable, and unwilling to back down. It's that fire that makes him a champion, but it's also that same fire that can burn him when he loses control. The fan reaction has been explosive. Social media is divided right down the middle. Some are saying the fine is excessive, that tennis needs characters like Medvedev to keep the sport alive and entertaining. Others argue it's about time he faced real consequences for his behavior. Clips of the incident have gone viral, racking up millions of views within hours. Fans from around the world are weighing in, some defending him passionately, others calling it embarrassing for the sport. But beyond the drama, there's a deeper emotional story here. Medvedev is not just any player. He's a husband, a father, a man who has spoken openly about the pressures of life on tour. The US Open is a grueling event, and the spotlight of New York can magnify every single emotion. It's easy to forget that behind the racket is a human being. Yes, his actions were over the line. Yes, the fine is deserved. But at the same time, there's a vulnerability to Medvedev that makes this story hit harder. He has always thrived as the outsider, the villain, the one who didn't care what the crowd thought. But now, you can't help but wonder if deep down, this latest incident is taking its toll. And here's the dramatic twist. This fine, this saga, might just be the turning point in Medvedev's career. He has two choices moving forward. He can let this define him, cementing the image of Medvedev the troublemaker, the hothead, the player who let his temper overshadow his talent. Or he can use this as fuel, channeling his emotions into something greater, proving to the world that he's not just a headline maker but a champion who learns from his mistakes. Imagine the scene a year from now. Medvedev standing again on Arthur Ashe, trophy in hand, having redeemed himself in the eyes of fans. Or imagine the opposite. Medvedev walking off in disgrace, remembered not for his victories but for moments like this, when his temper cost him dearly. That's the emotional weight of this story. That's why fans can't stop talking about it. In the end, $42,000 is just a number. What's priceless is reputation, legacy, and the love of the fans. Medvedev now faces the ultimate test, not of his serve, not of his backhand, but of his character. How he responds to this US Open saga will shape not just his career, but the way he's remembered long after the cheers fade. The world is watching. The fans are waiting. And Daniil Medvedev, whether he realizes it or not, stands at a crossroads in his career. Will he rise, or will he fall? That's the drama. That's the emotion. And that's why this story will go down as one of the most unforgettable chapters in US Open history.